Hi, thanks for checking another one of our videos here on YouTube. This is something I've been working on for a while. This is going to be, the thing can be tweaked to whatever, but we're building it a schematic here for a 5 joule output AC board. So the stored joules probably be like 8 to 10, and depending on the efficiency of the transformer, on the output transformer, we can get up to around 5 joules, give or take, on the output. It's based off 120 volt, 110 volt AC model. But this is the layout of it. This is where I'll kind of go through everything real quick. I kind of wrote some stuff down here to kind of talk about it. All right, this area here is our AC input. F1 is our fuse. We've got MOV, which is a metal oxide varistor. It's a surge suppression device. It goes across our AC right there. And this right here is our choke. It's a common mode choke. It is, how do I write that down? It's just an inductor. It has 2 coils on it. They're wound together. It blocks high frequency noise and interference. It's for like electrical interference, stuff like that on the AC side. And then we've got it's an X2 safety capacitor, and then a bleeding resistor of an RBX to kind of go with that one. It's a bleeding resistor. It's both these together clean the line and make it safer. The bleeding resistor makes sure the capacitor doesn't hold a dangerous charge when the unit is unplugged, so it kind of bleeds off that energy off that. So when you unplug it, you go in there, and this will discharge that capacitor over a certain amount of time. And then this right here, this whole area here, this is a multiplier circuit. It is based off, it's a 3-stage, called the Cockcroft-Walton voltage multiplier. It's been a system, that multiplier circuit has been around for 100 years. It's been around a long time. They use them in bug zappers and all sorts of stuff. And a lot of manufacturers on certain AC setups used to use it, and then some brands still use it. A multiplier system. It's got a set of there's C1 through C6. Odd ones up here and even ones down there, and there's D1 through D6. And each of these resistors or the capacitors. So how did I write that down? Basically it's a ladder of capacitors and diodes. It's a pretty neat little setup how they do this, but takes the 120 volt coming in, and it will pretty cleverly turn it into a DC voltage, but it basically multiplies it, by going through these capacitors, multiplies each of them up. So it takes 110, 120 volts in, and how do I write that down? The clever setup takes the 120 volt AC and stacks it higher with each stage, turning it into a much larger DC voltage, several hundred volts, probably 600, 700, 800 volts by the time it gets all the way through here, depending on any kind of little bit of loss that might get in there. That DC input or DC power builds up, goes over here to our H. I put H, the high voltage multiplier setup, and there's a high voltage return. Comes over here, since I ran out of room over here, so we're over here now. This is what comes in and stores up. There's our 2 big capacitors. There's going to be 2 25 microfarad capacitors wired in parallel to make 50 microfarads total. That's where our stored joules is going to be built up at. This D7, D7 and this 150 ohm 5 watt resistor. How did I have those labeled, or what are we talking about? It's a charging resistor, what we're using it to do. But a D7 is a high voltage diode. It's a 1200 volt, 12 amp diode. It keeps the main capacitors here from being discharging backwards this way into the multiplier circuit. So this is used as a protection thing from these, just so they don't accidentally. They're supposed to discharge this way, but just in case, I put that there to try to limit and keep the chances of it going backwards into it. And it's 1200 volt, 12 amp, which is plenty, because we're going to be about 600, 700, 800 volt, maybe 900 volt on the high side of voltage up here. So 1200 volt is plenty. So we have a bit of a cushion there. And then This is our bleeder resistor. It's going across the capacitors, so that way when a person unplugs power from the board, or unplugs it from the wall, this big resistor here will probably discharge these capacitors in probably about 6 seconds, give or take. So by the time someone gets in there, takes the thing a unit apart, should be pretty discharged. But that's the idea, anyways. And then we've got, so that's our 2 capacitors, and then over here we're getting into our SCR, which is that's the main thing that fires the energy off these capacitors into our transformer. But you got to use some other stuff here to protect the SCR as well as time it, time that pulse and everything. Okay, now we're in the SCR area. So what I got down next? It's basically like an electronic switch, but it's not a transistor. It only needs a quick gate trigger, which is what that symbol, this is a symbol for a SCR. You got your anode, your cathode, and your gate. And so it needs a quick gate trigger to trigger this to tell it when to pulse. And it stays on until the energy is emptied. And the anode is up to our capacitor bank. Our cathode goes to the primary winding of our transformer, which is over here. This is just a drawing of an output transformer. It's going to be off. It's going to be not built onto the board. It's going to be a separate deal. We're going to have some spade connectors that we're going to plug, that will be on the board, that we can plug the transformer primaries onto it, and we'll have them labeled and everything. So our cathode comes off of there. It goes to our primary of that. These 2 here, I believe, we'll see. We'll get to those in a minute. I'm not quite there yet. Yeah, so, here it is. Yeah, R2 and C9. These are Snubber network. They're placed across anode and cathode of our SCR. This is a 100 ohm non-inductive resistor in series with the polypropylene capacitor. It tames any sudden surges through the SCR. Now we're going to get over here to our timing and trigger circuit. I've kind of got 2 ways I want to do it. Basically, these were originally like a 330K, but we're going to put 2 resistors, like 160, 180K each. So this splits the load across, instead of being all forced onto one, because for all the energy from the high voltage capacitors that are being dumped through, they're going through this here. And so to protect these stuff, we want to, have them high wattage, high voltage and everything, and then also be able to share the load across multiple resistors versus just one. So we have 2 resistors here, 2 resistors here versus 1 and 1. This is basically a rheostat, dimmer switch, basically. It's going to be 100K range, and we're going to fine tune our speed of our pulse. It's probably going to be anywhere from about 1 second to 1.5. So let's try to find a sweet spot in the middle there, about 1.3. 1.2, somewhere in that range. You don't want it too fast because it's going to discharge too quickly. And that'll do 2 things. You'll actually get less energy out of the thing because it's going to fire the capacitors way too soon before they can actually build the charge up all the way. And plus, it's safety reason. You don't want it. I think by law, for any fence charger, they have to be 1 second pulse or faster or slower. They can't be any faster than that because you want the person or the animal to be able to bounce off from the fence, not get locked on to the fence. So it's a safety thing. So we'll fine tune the SCR or the trigger, the trimmer resistor there. We'll fine tune that, and then we've got our DIAC and our capacitor there. Let's see, what did I talk to you about that? Let's see. Okay, this is C10. Yeah, that's a 2.2 microfarad capacitor. Let's see what I talked to you about that. This is R7. And this, wait a minute. Let's see. Let me read that again. When C10 charged enough, it fires the DIAC DB31, which is this right there. It's our DIAC. It's a symbol for our DIAC. And here's what a DIAC is, so if you want to know. It's like a little switch that stays open until its voltage limit is reached to around 30 volts. And this is, I think, set to about 33 volt setting. Once it reaches that point, it snaps on and sends a sharp pulse, which then boop goes up to the gate. Because remember I said the SCR It's like a switch, but it looks for a gate trigger. So that's what this DIAC does. It triggers and tells that SCR when to fire. So all this right here is part of our timing circuit to tell it when to pulse, when to turn on and pulse and how often to click. Now we're back over here. The pulse goes through R4, which is right there. It's a 100 ohm load, 100 ohm resistor. It's the gate trigger, gate of the SCR. Instantly turn it on. Then there's a 1K resistor down here. There's a Zener diode. It's connected between the SCR gate and cathode, which is right there. So it's going across right there. Let's see that we're using this Zener diode as like a pressure relief valve, I guess you want to call it, and make sure the gate never sees more than 33 volts. Keeps the SCR safe from accidental overcharging or over triggering. Sorry. And then I'm going to move on to the output of the fence, or the output, the input side of the transformer, which are primary. And we got a large MOV over here. It's 1,000 volt, 20 millimeter. It's a pretty good size MOV, probably about the size of a nickel. Pretty good size. And that's placed across the transformer primary. It's there as a backup insurance. It clamps any dangerous voltage spikes that could otherwise hurt the transformer or SCR. So there's no back feeding from the transformer if the inductance doesn't match or isn't quite right based on how this is all set up. If the inductance, because not all transformers are equal, and all the internal inductance and internal resistance is not the same. They're not all universal. That's why they call impedance. I think that's the right word I'm looking for. Impedance and internal impedance of the transformers are all different. So this is there to try to clamp down and block anything from coming back up here and hurting that SCR, burning it up prematurely. So that's what that's mostly for. So, and then on here is our secondary side. This is going to go to our fence, and this is going to go to our ground for our, but that's, a real quick little deal. It took me a little while to figure this out, and I think I drew this circuit about 6, 7, 8 times. Was doing it on the computer, and it was messing me up doing it on there. So I was like, I'm just going to do it the old school way I did back when I was in school doing stuff like this, and just freehand draw it with a pencil and paper. And if I make any mistakes, I can erase it. And you can see I really did it. Here's another version I did earlier, and I had to erase and redo and all kinds of stuff. I was like, I'm going to clean this up one last time. I think this is going to be our final drawing. So we can tweak this quite a bit, and to get more energy, we can get lesser joules, more joules, just by tweaking just a few things. We can make these capacitors larger. Right now they're 6.8 microfarad at 630 volt a piece on each one of these capacitors, these little ones here. And I think the diodes would be fine for most applications, but we can tweak those, make them larger or smaller and capacitance, and that'll bring our voltage up and down, or some of our joules up and down, because that's going to go over to main caps here. We can make those smaller or bigger, or add another one depending on what we do to make more or less joules. And then we got a really large SCR. It's about the size of my thumb. It's huge. And it's way overkill, but all these parts we're going to be putting are all name brand parts. We're not using any eBay Chinese made stuff. We're doing all name brand components, and most of them are oversized, a bit. Like we're using 12 amp diodes, 1200 volt diodes. We're using pretty good sized stuff because I want this to be a reliable deal, and stuff like that. So I want it to be serviceable, all through hole. There's no service mounted components. It's all through holes design. So what my next step to do is I'm going to probably here in the next week or so, I got my little shopping list put together. I'm going to tweak some quantities, and I've made some changes like here. I'm going to look over my list there, and I'm going to tweak my shopping cart, I guess you want to call it, on a couple of different websites. And then I'm going to probably get a breadboard first and build it on a breadboard. And then if it works out great, then I'm going to buy just a generic like 5" by 6" or 4" by whatever, 4" by 7" rectangular circuit board, and I'm going to build my like a prototype board, and I'll find a transformer of some sort here from some brand that'll handle 8, 9, 10 stored joules to hopefully deliver around 5 joule output, and we'll just see how things work. So this is something I've been working on, and the reason I'm doing this is because well, I want to make something better than what's out there, for one, and I want some brands we're getting in, like Zener, Blitzer, American Farmers. They're not making any parts for their stuff, and no transformers, no boards. So this board will be able to slip right in there somehow. We'll figure it out, and I'll probably put some holes in the corners of the board, so we can put a little spacer and a nylon nut and bolt to hold the board in place. And then we'll have to figure out a transformer setup for it. But yeah, so this is pretty neat. I'm pretty excited about this. I'm going to work on I got another design in the process of messing around with. I got to sit down and figure it out some more. I've got about 60% of it done. It's a 10 joule output, but it's an adaptive control type. It's about 3 or 4 stage build up. I think 3 stage build up. When you get into those larger joules stuff, you need some kind of adaptive output, so that way it's not using all the power all the time and getting the damn thing too hot on the inside. If you're on a smaller fence, what it's designed for, so you need that adaptive stuff. But that's I've got like this sort of stuff done, and I've got some of this, but we have there's other electronics that go into that. You got to get a 12-volt driver in there that can run the adaptive control chip thing, or whatever. I don't know if it's a chip, some little device in there that does all that. And there's a bunch more parts that go in. It's probably another twice as. It's probably got another layer, probably 2 more layers of like crap like this on there, because there's 3 stages. You got 3 SCRs, 3 everything else. I mean, it's a mess. It gets pretty complicated pretty quick. I had to take a break. I said I got to do something simpler and easier first before I pull my hair out of what's left of it on the adaptive control stuff. But yeah, I've been pretty busy with stuff like this, and I've been busy working on things. I haven't made a lot of videos recently because I've been too damn busy and stuff. So I've been doing this in my free time and when I'm in the mornings and evenings when the kids are asleep, and staying up real too late. I mean, right now it's 10:30 at night. I got to get to bed. I got to get up at 5:30 to get the kids up ready for school bus and stuff and get them dressed and ready. So, but anyways, thanks for checking us out. If you got any questions, ask below. And you got any ideas of things you want to see? There's no flashing lights or nothing. It's just a board that's going to fire a transformer, and like the main capacitors are going to be built onto the board. Most brands will have a separate capacitor that plugs into the board. I'm going to build them onto the board, so it's eliminating an extra piece you got to worry about plugging in. It's going to be built onto the board. But luckily, it's going to be all through-hole stuff, so the capacitors get weak in 10, 15 years. You can desolder them, pull them off. They're an off-the-shelf part. We'll probably stock the stuff here, so if you need parts, we'll sell them to you. But that's down the road. But I'm hoping that by the next couple weeks, we'll have a working prototype board that we can show off a little bit. So, all right. Well, wish me luck.